Time now to have a look through the papers for you this morning with Michael Booker, Deputy Editor of The Express, and religious commentator Vicky Beeching. Morning, one and all.
Good morning.
Good to see you. Michael, we'll start with the Sun, the inside pages of the Sun this morning, looking at this Lance Corporal.
Well, I just remember the story at the time when it was first reported, and I think there'd been a flurry of similar stories. And I was in awe at the time, and you're in awe now just at how brave that Corporal James Ashworth was, and you know, he clearly deserved the Victoria Cross. But it's always sad that, well, it's usually very sad that the Victoria Cross is usually given in circumstances where the soldier doesn't come out alive, unfortunately, and there's many cases of that. And it's such a shame, but he's done. It shows you the bravery of all the lads out there. 23-year-old. I remember when I was 23, I had no sense of responsibility about me whatsoever, and for what he did to lead his men so bravely. Sadly, he's died, but hopefully his family will get something good out of the fact that he's got a Victoria Cross.
Yeah, as you say, you've got to hope that it does bring some comfort to the family, but it struck me this morning just how desperately sad it is.
Yeah, but I remember when his death was first reported, and to see that picture, a lad so full of life, so young, so handsome, at 23, he's given his life for his country, and to many, you know, that's what he wanted to do. You know, he went out there. He's from a family of soldiers who've all served their country so brilliantly. He's got the highest honour you can get.
As you say, you hope it does give the family some sense
It must
of
do,
comfort.
it really must do. And
Let's hope so.
other places across the papers I saw, they're reporting on just the toll that it does take to be in combat. And I think, you know, we hear about stories like this, but there must be so many people that we don't hear of who, you know, die unknown.
It's also good just to remind us that there are still loads of our girls and boys out there still serving.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes it can, you know, it drops off the news agenda, doesn't it?
It does.
Yes, yeah, I think you're quite right. But so what a dreadfully sad story. Let's move on to another tragic story in its own way. The Independent inside pages, page 4. Vicky, this morning, looking at this particular doctor.
Yes, he's facing jail for about 200 counts of recording indecent assaults on women with a spy cam in a watch. And he also had a clock in his house, and apparently the whole thing came to light when a 19-year-old lodger who was staying with him got suspicious when he told her not to move a clock in the bathroom, and she kind of wondered what this was all about and began to put two and two together and found out that he'd actually kind of implanted these little cameras into both the clock in their home bathroom and then into the wristwatch that he always wore. And I just think it's really, really interesting to see what we're doing with new technology. I know whenever I'm on here, I'm always going on about technology as part of my academic research into how we handle all these new gadgets and the ethics associated. But you know, what do we do with the power that's given to us? Now we can have cameras so tiny they can fit in a wristwatch.
I guess it's no surprise then, is it? I mean, because I can understand the temptation in general terms why people want to use technology in the way to, you know, to get an insight on things that otherwise you wouldn't be able to. I mean, I'm not saying obviously this is right in any way, shape or form, but you can understand the human temptation behind it, can't you?
It gives a tremendous amount of power. I was reading in the sort of small print there, it said that the watch was actually only £60, and the process of installing the camera was actually very simple. So we're kind of in a world that sounds very like James Bond. You know, technology that we never thought would be ours is actually incredibly easy. And my interest really is looking towards the new technology, Google Glass.
Oh,
you know, the
Glass,
glasses that we're going to be wearing
amazing.
soon. And somebody tested those recently, and it was documented in a paper that they went into a cafe and they had these glasses on and they were recording the whole time. And the barista serving actually had no idea that he was being recorded, even though I think there's a small light that comes on a Google Glass that tells you. But you know, this is just the tip of the iceberg. What are we going to do when we've got these kind of eyewear pieces that, you know, permanently record? How do we handle it?
It's wonderful technology, but it's quite frightening, some of the implications that are attached to it all. Thank you. We're out of time just for now, but don't go anywhere. Lots more for you in just a moment, including why the Night Warrior has hung up his cape, and Wills and Kate take their Scrabble very seriously. So we're looking through the papers this morning with Michael and with Vicky. Let's head to the Mail, Michael, should we? And what they're calling the £20 million casino sting.
Oh, yes.
It's a bit like they've used the still. But it is very.
Well, that's the only still you
Ocean's
can
11.
use for this one.
It's a cracker.
Yeah, this is a punter who was known as the Whale to staff in Crown Casino in Melbourne in Australia because he bet such huge sums. He managed to, after a few days of gambling, he got into the VIP high rollers room. Then they got a bit suspicious. After just 8 hands of poker, he managed to make about £20 million. Oh. They got suspicious, booted him out. They checked all the cameras and everything. Basically, it sounds as though he had an earpiece. There was a friend of his, or it sounds like someone who was in security who was being nobbled, who was watching on the CCTV cameras, had seen everything, everyone's hands, everyone's rival hands. He'd managed to make all the money, get out of there. Now, the police say no official complaint's been made. He's out of the country. They say he's a foreign gambler who's got away with all his illegal winnings. Although the casinos say that they are confident of recovering a significant proportion of the money, whatever that means. It all sounds a bit spooky.
So he doesn't have to pay the money back?
Well, apparently, there doesn't seem to have been a complaint of a criminal offence yet, although it sounds as though it is a criminal offence.
The really weird part, I think, is that he obviously pulled this off. It was amazing. And then it says in the piece, then he went back to his hotel room on site. I'm thinking, if you just pulled that off, why would you go back to your hotel room and just hang out with your family? That's what it says. He just went back there with his family. I'm thinking, wouldn't you want to, like, get away? You know?
Yeah.
But if there's no evidence of an actual crime and he's not been caught in the act, then what can they actually do?
Well, he's got 20 million quid now. Maybe he doesn't care.
It's just such a high-tech morning. It's, you know, cameras
and sticking with it, Vicky, it's good to talk, but think of the generation gap in the... What's this? It's in the Independent this morning.
Yeah, this is really interesting. It's a kind of generational cross-section of how a family use technology, how they stay in touch. And you've got the grandfather, the mother and the daughter.
She looks to be ringing her hairdresser.
Well, honestly, yes. Yes, should too. There's the grandfather.
It's brilliant. So the grandfather's basically saying he loves letters. He refers to texting as writing on the telephone, which I thought was quite endearing. And then you've got the mum who's basically making a foray into Facebook and enjoying it. And then finally, the lovely pink-haired daughter. The interesting thing for me is she's being showcased as, you know, the digital generation, but she actually says she took 2 weeks off social media and really enjoyed it and found it a very healthy thing. So interesting, even when you get there.
In the end, it can become oppressive. I mean, there was a study the other day saying that people sort of check their phones every 20 seconds for messages, for emails, for text. You know, you are kind of slave to the technology.
I don't know. It's interesting. I'm in a way more intrigued by the mother's generation. I mean, I know some ladies in their sort of 50s and 60s who have sort of jumped on the Facebook bandwagon, and they're more obsessed with it than anybody else I know.
They're the biggest demographic on Facebook growing at the moment. 15,
my mother got an iPad at Christmas. She's never been off it, and she's now got everything on there. She loves it. She bombards me with messages all the time. Annoyingly.
Well, there you go. You see, that's nice.
I thought I got away.
Oh, you never get away. What about this superhero, Michael?
Oh, this is a sad story. This is Roger Hayhurst. He's 20. He was known as the Night Warrior, and 2 years ago he took to the street. He was inspired by Kick-Ass, you know, the movie hero who... He wasn't really a superhero, he just got dressed up. So he took to the streets of Salford. He was joined by his fiancée, Rebecca Wall, who was known as the Night Maiden. So the Night Warrior and the Night Maiden used to hang around, just basically saying to people, look, just be nicer to each other. He said if things got a bit hairy, he'd run off and phone the police. So he wasn't doing all bad, but unfortunately he took his cape off one night, someone recognised him as the Night Warrior and gave him a right-hander. So he got a bit of a beating. Now he says all I want to do is try and get people to like each other. So he's hung up his cape, but he's now on the radio, on local radio. But bringing mirth to everyone in Salford.
I see what a nice looking couple.
They do look lovely, don't they?
Such a heartwarming story to know that people really want to make that difference in society.
Just want to get people to like each other.
I'm a bit obsessed with The Big Bang Theory at the moment. I will just watch it all the time, and I have to say,
he has a whiff of geek about him.
In his outfit,
he could be Sheldon from The Dark Knight.
He does look like Sheldon Cooper. There you go. That's my obsession revealed for the world this morning. Lovely. We'll see you both in an hour. Thank you for that. Let's get a quick check on the back pages, Charlie.
Yeah, let's have a look at The Sun this hour, and their headline is Rio is in turmoil. Either he turns down England or he risks the wrath of Fergie. So Alex Ferguson apparently unhappy to see him recalled to international duty by Roy Hodgson. Caught between a rock and a hard place there.
Great stuff, Charlie. Thank you. Let's get a check on the weather for us today. It's not going to be very nice, I'm afraid. Here's Naz.